say it didn't turn out well.
Oh. Alright, Mom, here we go. So this is how we make bread. First, I got my little scale here. I'm going to put in 500 grams of flour because I found that's the perfect. 508. Let's go. 504. 500. Perfect. So that's just flour. And then I've got some water over here. I'm going to put in 325 grams of water because, again, I found that that's the best. It should be about, it's a little much. All right, perfect. 326, 325, no big deal. All right, now we're gonna mix it just with our hands. Nothing fancy. I like to use my 4 fingers like this because it kind of sticks together. I'm going to put the phone down for a second. Okay, and this is what the dough looks like after it's mixed. You can see it's shaggy and it's very, very lumpy put together. So all you do is you grab a towel. Where's my towel? Grab a towel and just put it over the side like that and just let it sit for 30 minutes right on your counter. Alright, so it's been 30 minutes. So now I'm going to add my sourdough. And you can see that's my starter. I fed it last night, so it's usually a little bit more bubbly than this, but it should be okay. Now again, I always use the scale. I know you don't have one, so I am going to measure out 100 grams on my scale into this cup. So this way I could tell you how much to use. But again, when you're dealing with things that are of odd densities, I'm making a video for Grandma. Okay? When you're using densities that are regular, it's hard to say what a half cup is. I'm putting in some sourdough starter, love.
How did you put it in the jar?
It grows in the jar.
Oh.
So now we're at 75, 80. One more scoop should do it. Perfect. So I would say that's about exactly 1/3 of a cup of starter. So maybe I told you to use too much last time. Yes, Emmy.
I'm hungry.
You can have a snack a little bit.
Okay.
Alright, so we're going to go back to our thing. It's still this shaggy mess. And now what we're going to do... Oh, before I do that, let me get the salt. We're going to... I like to put little dimples so that this way the sourdough really gets in there. And then I put in my 100 grams of starter. I'm going to need 2 hands for this. So you can see I got my starter in the mix, and then I'm just going to, I don't know if there's a right way or wrong way to do this. Let me just mix it all together. Oh, the salt. I also need to add 1 teaspoon of salt. And there's the salt. And we'll mix this in. This is just mixing. It's not super interesting, but we're going to make this rest for another 30 minutes before we start our stretches. Okay, so it's been 30 minutes, and you can see the dough is a wet, solid mass. So what you're going to do is you're going to go over to your thing, and you're just going to wet your hand. It can be cold or warm, it doesn't matter. And then with your wet hand, you're going to go all around the bowl. And you're just going to loosen it up. And then you're going to start anywhere you want. And you're going to take it and you're just going to give it a stretch until you feel like it can't stretch anymore. And just put it down. In the bowl. Stretch. And put it down. In the bowl. Stretch. And put it down. Stretch. And put it down. Now the important thing is to make sure you don't rip the dough. Because if you rip the dough, your stretch is going to be a rip instead of a stretch, and it won't expand. It'll like break. So I like to do 10 stretches or enough so that each side gets stretched one time. 1 second. And usually one hand holds the thing, but I'm using it to hold. And you can see it's not stretching much right now, but this is just the first stretch. I also lost count. I'll just do this one more time. And there we go. That's it. See? My hand's not that bad. What I like to do is I like to just take a little bit off my hand here, and I just do it like that, and that's my thing to say I stretch this one time. So we put our towel back on it. Oops. And we let it sit for another 30 minutes. All right, so it's been 30 minutes, and you can see the dough looks much doughier, not as sticky, not as shaggy. And that's a good sign. So one more time, we're just gonna go over here, wet our hand, and just go all the way around. 1 second. All right, go ahead.
Hi, Grandma and Grandpa. You say hi. Hi. Emmy says hi to you. Daddy's gonna get back to making bread now.
Okay. And once again, you just pull, and you should be able to pull a little bit more, but you see those breaks? You don't want that, so don't overstretch it if it starts breaking. 2. 3. 4. 5. Okay. 6. 7. 8.
See you.
9, and last one.
Hey, you saying hi?
10.
9.
And get the last little leftovers off your hand. And
Try cooking
that's the
spray
second
on your
time
hand
I did it.
instead. When you start that, try cooking spray on
Okay.
your hand. make sure that your hands.
And we let it sit for 30 minutes.
And make sure that you your hands don't stick to the dough.
Got it. Okay, this is going to be the fourth and final shaping. I wet my hands. And I'm gonna go one more time. I didn't film the third one because it's kind of the same exact steps, but I just wanted to show you when you're done how it looks. See how much thicker it is? And you can give it, look at that stretch. You get a really good stretch out of it. I kind of ripped it there, but it's okay. This is the consistency you want your dough to be before, look how loose that is, before the pre-shaping. I think this will be the last one. All right. So there we go. And now we're gonna let this rest one more time for another 30 minutes. And then we'll get into the pre-shaping, which is probably the most important part. All right, so it's been a half hour since the last fold, and this is my dough, and it looks very dough-like, nice and smooth texture. We're gonna grab our flour. And we're gonna get a nice liberal dusting of flour. Before you do anything, wet your hand and really get underneath, because you want this to not stick. You want to get completely underneath it and pull it all up. So I'm gonna get my flour here and get a good dusting, because you don't want this to stick at all. All right, and you're gonna get your flour out and plop it on there like that. It's empty. And now I think I got this little scraper tool off Amazon for like $5. It helps, but you don't actually need it. But what you gotta make sure you do, and I should have dusted it better, is make sure the whole thing gets a nice coating on the bottom so that the bottom isn't sticky. All right, that's pretty good. And now I'm gonna make it like a square. Hold on, put this down. All right, something like that. It doesn't have to be perfect, but just, you know, squarish. And this is when we take the one side and we fold it down. See how it sticks? Because this side is sticky. We take this side and we fold it down, and we take this side and we fold it down, and then we take this side and we fold it down, and then we just do that one more time. Take this side and fold it down, take this side and fold it down, take this side and fold it down, and take this side and fold it down, and you can see how this is kind of ball shaped. Now I gotta use my hands, hold on. See if I can do it like this maybe. All right, so you're gonna take the dough and you're just gonna make a nice tight, you're gonna take your hands at the back and just pull them forward, and that gets the ball nice and tight. Oops. Nice and tight. And if you use this thing, your hand doesn't stick to it. And there you go. A nice tight beautiful ball of dough. And now what I like to do, because I don't like it going back in that super disgusting, bowl, I like to just get a fresh bowl. And I get some more flour. And I just do this so it doesn't stick. And I get my knife. Under it, and I just drop it in. And I missed. Give it a little shake around so it comes to the bottom. And then finally, a dusting on top so the stays tight. Nice tight ball. Okay. And we're gonna let this sit one more time for 30 minutes. And then we're gonna do the second most important part, the bulk rise at the end before the baking. All right, here we go. This is now the second most important part of bread making, and it's the second to last part. So we got our bread right there in the bowl. We gotta get some more flour for the final shaping before the bread ferments and rises up. So get that in there. We're gonna invert it. Beautiful. And we're gonna do something very similar to last time. We're gonna flatten the dough out. It feels like a good dough. It's easier with two hands. All right, it doesn't have to be perfect. You want it square shaped like this. Okay, there we go. And now what you're gonna do is you're gonna, oop, I didn't wash my hands. You should always wash your hands before you do this. All right, now this is the final shaping, and for some reason, the bread rises better when it's in this shape like this. So you're gonna take the bottom, you're gonna fold it up about a third of the way, like that. It's gonna stick. You're gonna take this side, and you're gonna fold it over like that. And you're gonna take this side, and you're gonna fold it over like that. So you get a shape that looks kind of like that. So that's folded up over and over. And then you're gonna take this end here, and you're gonna basically tuck it in almost like a burrito. You're gonna take it and you're gonna do it like that, and you're just gonna roll it as tight as you can. And you get something that kind of looks like this, and then you can just give it a nice firming up like that. And that's perfect. That's exactly what you want. Now you take this, and I have this little basket. It's called a banneton. You don't have this, but you can just use a bowl with like a cloth like that lining it so it doesn't stick. And you just flour it up. They say if you have rice flour, it works even better. But I don't have it, so I'm going to use the same flour I used for everything. And then I'm going to get my scraper, whatever I did with it. Oh, here it is. And I'm just going to pick it up, and I'm doing it with a scraper so it doesn't stick to my hands. And I'm just going to go like that. And then I'm going to flip it over. So, because this is the bottom of the bread. And then you flip it over so the top is on the top, and then you flip it over again so that the top becomes the bottom. So we go like this. And then we're just going to come here and just fold this up Usually my dough's a little bit more sticky. I think I used a little bit too much flour, but that's not a big deal. Because when this comes out, this is going to flip again. So this comes the bottom and the top gets this nice pattern with the wicking. Yeah. So I waited a little bit too long. This became a little bit loose. Usually I like it tighter so it gets that good, when it expands, it really pushes hard into the side, but I think this should be fine for now. So I'll just do this, and there we go. We cover it with a cloth one more time, and we're gonna let this sit for about 4 hours. What people said is the best thing to do is put it in the oven, but you don't turn the oven on, you just keep the light on, and that light gives it a little bit of temperature, and it's a perfect environment for proofing bread. So that's it. Next step is going to be just baking it. This has nothing to do with baking, but this dough like sticks like glue to the side of your bowl. So I like to put boiling hot water all the way to the top with some soap. So this way, when you clean it, it'll clean easier. Because this stuff takes some elbow grease to take off. Okay, it's been 4 hours since the bread came out of the oven. It wasn't on, it was proofing. And now it looks like this. So I set the oven to 500 degrees and I put the Dutch oven in there. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take it out. I'm going to invert the bread into the Dutch oven and then score it. And then put it back in the oven as quick as I can do it. Let me get my knife. Oh, whoops, this one scores better. You're supposed to use a razor blade, but I don't have any. So here we go. Dutch oven out. Close the oven, keep the heat in. Top off. And here we go. I'm going to put it down.
Hello? Hey. Hear the kids say anything? Hear the kids say anything?
See that? See that beautiful pattern you get from the bag? All right, and now we got to just drop it easy in there. I kind of missed. I'd like to drop it in the center, but I'm not gonna complain. And now, real quick, we're just gonna score it on the side.
I'm not bringing him anywhere inside. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, this knife doesn't score very well. Yeah. Oh well.
Oh yeah, he always likes to do stuff with the
And here we go. And back in the oven. And there we go. We put the timer on for 20 minutes. Oops. And after 20 minutes, we take the lid off and put it in for another 20 minutes. A little bit. Okay, so the timer just went off. So what you do is you open the door. You take it off. And you see that spring, how much it risen. That's the most it's gonna raise. And now it just has to bake. So you just turn it down to 450, or in Dad's case, probably leave it at 500 because he likes it burnt. And you set the timer for, it was a little undercooked last time. I'm gonna say 25 minutes instead of 20 minutes, but your results may vary. Basically, just take a peek at it, and if it looks, you want it to look a little bit burnt. It's kind of weird. You want the crust to be nice and crusty, but if you let it go too long, the bottom burns. So, I don't know. Okay, timer's off. Here we go. here she is. Fresh out of the oven. Let's get a spatula. Oops. And there is the loaf of bread. So I think the other one had a bigger spring, but that was probably because I was making it with one hand. I mean, this one's not bad. Not at all. But I think if I could have gotten a little bit tighter, it probably would have popped a little bit more. Very nice. Ooh, hot. Crust. Alright, I'll show you the cut it in about you gotta wait like an hour for this thing to cool. It stays hot for a very long time. Alrighty. The bread is cooled. I'm gonna cut into it now. Oh, before I do, they say if you can tap the bottom of the bread and it makes like a hollow sound, that means it's good because it means it's airy on the inside. So let's see. Yeah, I'll never be able to do this, so just put this down. Like that. Here we go. Oh yeah. That is some good looking. Oh, good smelling bread. There you go.